I watched my sister stride into my wedding venue wearing a white lace gown that could have been mistaken for a bridal dress, and I felt absolutely nothing. No rage, no tears, no panic. Just the cool, detached satisfaction of someone watching a chess piece move exactly where I'd predicted it would go. "Oh my God, Emma!" My mother's voice carried across the garden, high-pitched with fake surprise. "You look absolutely stunning, doesn't she, everyone?" The guests murmured uncomfortably. Some looked away, others whispered behind their hands. But my mother continued her performance, grasping Emma's hands and spinning her around like she was the bride. My sister's dress was identical in style to the one I'd shown my family months ago, the one I'd supposedly ordered, the one I'd gushed about in our family group chat, complete with photos and links. The dress I wasn't actually wearing. I stood near the champagne fountain in a sleek, blush pink cocktail dress, watching the scene unfold with the detached interest of someone watching a play they'd already seen. My fiancé Marcus stood beside me, his hand warm and steady on the small of my back. "Is that, he started to ask, but I squeezed his hand gently. "Everything's fine," I whispered. "Better than fine, actually. Just watch." My grandmother was the first to approach Emma. Grandmother Helena, 83 years old and sharp as a tack, looked my sister up and down with the kind of withering disdain that only old money can truly perfect. "Emma, dear," she said, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent garden, "I'm afraid there's been some confusion. This is a wedding, not a costume party. And even if it were, I believe the bride," she gestured to me, "already has that role filled." Emma's face flushed. "I didn't realize, Mom said it would be fine. It's just a dress." "A white dress," Grandmother Helena said, each word crisp and cutting. "At your sister's wedding. How remarkably tacky." The whispers grew louder. I watched Emma's eyes dart around, searching for rescue, landing on my mother. But Mom's face had gone pale, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Because this wasn't my wedding. This was my fake wedding. My real wedding had happened 3 weeks ago in a small chapel in Paris with Marcus and exactly 12 guests, his parents, his sister, my grandmother, my best friend Nicole, and a few close friends. No elaborate ceremony, no months of planning, no family drama, just vows, tears of joy, and the most perfect chocolate croissant I'd ever tasted the next morning while wearing my actual wedding dress. A vintage Givenchy that I'd found in a tiny boutique in the Marais, with my new husband's ring warm on my finger. This garden party. This was my revenge. I died on my 28th birthday. Not this lifetime. The last one. The first one. The one where I believed that family meant something, that blood was thicker than water, that if I just tried hard enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, my mother and sister would eventually see my worth. I was an idiot. The death itself was almost pathetically mundane. I'd just finished working a 16-hour shift at the hospital where I worked as a nurse, covering for Emma again, who had called in sick to go to some influencer event. I was driving home in the rain, exhausted, when a truck ran a red light. They told me later, in that strange floating space between death and whatever came next, that I died instantly, painless, quick. The life that led to that moment, that had been nothing but pain. I was born 2 minutes after Emma, fraternal twins, but you'd never know it from how our mother treated us. Emma got the pretty genes, Mom always said, the charisma, the spark. I got the role of caretaker, backup plan, and emotional punching bag. Dad left when we were 6. I barely remembered him, just a vague impression of someone tall who smelled like coffee and sometimes smiled at me when Mom wasn't looking. After he left, Mom's bitterness crystallized into something toxic. She needed someone to blame, someone to control, someone to make her feel powerful. Emma was her golden child, her second chance, her proxy for all the glamorous life she'd never had. I was the spare. When we were 12, I won a regional science fair. I'd spent months building a water purification system, staying up late, teaching myself engineering principles from library books. I was so proud. I remember bringing home the trophy, my face aching from smiling. Mom glanced at it. "That's nice, honey. Emma, show your sister your new modeling portfolio." When we were 16, I got a full scholarship to a prestigious pre-med summer program. Emma got a boyfriend who cheated on her. Guess which one Mom considered the household emergency? I gave up my spot in the program to stay home and support Emma through her trauma, which mainly consisted of her crying photogenically while I did her homework, and Mom blamed me for not being there for your sister when she needs you. When we were 21, I graduated college with honors, working 3 jobs to put myself through. Emma dropped out sophomore year to pursue her brand. Mom spent my graduation day helping Emma set up lighting for Instagram photos, and when I walked across that stage, neither of them were in the audience. It continued like that. Every achievement I earned was minimized. Every sacrifice I made was expected. Every moment I tried to claim for myself was somehow stealing from Emma. I paid for Emma's car when she wrecked hers drunk driving. I paid for Mom's surgery when she refused to get proper insurance. I gave Emma my rent money when she got scammed by a business opportunity. I worked doubles and triples, ran myself into the ground, and told myself it was what family did. And then I met Marcus. In my first life, I met him at a hospital fundraiser. He was there, representing his family's foundation. Old money, the kind that doesn't flaunt itself, but everyone knows is there. He was kind, intelligent. He laughed at my jokes. He looked at me like I mattered. We dated for 2 years. It was the first time in my life I felt seen, valued, loved for who I was, not what I could provide. When he proposed, I cried for 3 hours. Happy tears. Finally, I thought, finally something that's mine, something beautiful that they can't take from me. I was wrong. The wedding planning became a nightmare. Mom insisted on helping, which meant taking over entirely. Every decision I made, she overruled. The venue I wanted was too small. The dress I loved was too plain. The flowers I chose were too cheap. We have to think about how this reflects on Emma, she'd say. Her followers will see the photos. We can't let them think we're poor. Emma, for her part, turned the whole thing into content. She posted about helping me plan, positioning herself as the devoted sister. Her followers ate it up. Behind the scenes, she complained constantly. The wedding was taking attention away from her. Why did I need such a big event? Couldn't I just do something simple? I should have seen it coming. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma started dating someone new. His name was Connor, and he was, coincidentally, Marcus's business partner and best friend. The man Marcus had chosen to be his best man. I watched it happen in real time. Emma suddenly hanging around Marcus's office. Emma showing up at our apartment with Connor. Emma slowly, carefully poisoning my relationship. She told Marcus I was stressed, bridezilla, impossible to please. She told Connor I'd always been jealous of her. She created doubt, inserted herself, made everything about her. And then, 1 week before the wedding, I found out that half my vendors had canceled. The photographer, the florist, the caterer, all gone. When I called them, confused and panicked, they said the same thing. Emma had contacted them, claiming to be me, saying the wedding was off. When I confronted her, she cried. She said it was a misunderstanding. She said she was trying to help, trying to get better prices. Mom backed her up, said I was being paranoid, that stress was making me cruel to my sister. Marcus believed me, thank God. But the damage was done. We had to scramble, find new vendors, pay rush fees I couldn't afford. I spent money I didn't have, went into credit card debt, borrowed from friends. The day of the wedding, I was exhausted, strung out, running on fumes, and Emma wore white. She walked into my wedding in a dress so similar to mine that guests literally confused us. She posed for photos, soaked up attention, played the beautiful sister. When people confronted her, she played innocent. Oh, I didn't realize. It's cream, not white. Is there a difference? Mom defended her, said I was being oversensitive, said Emma just wanted to look nice for my special day. The wedding itself was a blur. I smiled, said my vows, went through the motions, but inside I was breaking. This was supposed to be my day, my one day, and they'd taken it. The marriage lasted 3 years. Not because Marcus didn't love me, he did, but because I was so damaged, so exhausted, so utterly depleted that I had nothing left to give. The debt from the wedding crushed us. Emma's constant presence in our lives, always needing something, always in crisis, with Mom guilting me into helping, created constant tension. And I was tired. So tired. I worked myself to death, literally. Picking up shifts, trying to pay off debt, trying to prove I was worth something. That night, driving home in the rain, I remember thinking, I just need to rest, just for a minute. I never woke up, except I did. I opened my eyes to sunlight streaming through a window I recognized. My childhood bedroom. The wallpaper I'd helped Mom hang when I was 14, covered in tiny blue flowers. My twin bed with the worn quilt. My desk with the stack of college brochures. I sat up, heart pounding, and caught sight of myself in the mirror. 18 years old, fresh-faced, healthy, alive. The calendar on my wall read August 2018, 7 days before I was supposed to start college. I sat there for 20 minutes just breathing, testing. Was this real? Some kind of dying dream? But no, it was too detailed, too solid. The morning sounds from downstairs, Mom's talk radio, the coffee maker, Emma's off-key singing. The smell of burnt toast, the feel of the sheets under my hands. I was back. The memories of my first life sat in my mind like a film I'd watched, crystal clear and complete. Every moment, every betrayal, every sacrifice that went unappreciated. Every way they'd used me, drained me, destroyed me. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. I wasn't going to do it again. None of it. Every mistake I'd made, every doormat moment, every time I'd set myself on fire to keep them warm, I knew exactly how it ended. And this time, I was going to choose differently. The first thing I did was check my bank account. In my first life, I'd had about $8,000 saved. Money from graduation gifts, part-time jobs, scholarships. Money I'd ended up giving to Emma 3 months into college when she'd gotten fired from her job and couldn't make rent. This time, I opened a new account at a different bank that very day, transferred everything, changed all my passwords. And when Emma came to me 2 weeks later, tears streaming down her face with that same story about losing her job, I said no. What? She'd stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. I said, no, Emma. I don't have extra money. I'm starting college. But I'll be evicted. Then maybe you should have been more responsible. Her shock turned to anger. What's wrong with you? Since when are you such a bitch? Since I realized that being nice just means being used, said calmly, figure it out yourself. She ran to Mom, of course. Mom called me furious. How dare I abandon my sister? How dare I be so selfish? She's 21, Mom. She can handle her own problems. I'm not her parent. Family helps family. Then you help her, I said. Use your own money. The silence on the other end was telling. Mom had no intention of helping Emma with her own resources. That's what I was for? I hung up. It was the first boundary I'd ever set with them, and it felt like jumping off a cliff. Terrifying and exhilarating all at once. College, the second time around, was different. I already knew the material, which made everything easier, but more than that, I was strategic. I networked. I joined clubs that would actually benefit my career, not just pad a resume. I made real friends, people who valued me, who didn't treat me like an emotional support animal. And I avoided every single financial trap that had destroyed me the first time. When Mom called with an emergency, the same emergency from my first life, a medical procedure she needed that turned out to be cosmetic surgery, I said no. When Emma's car broke down and she needed money, I said no. When they guilt-tripped me, I held firm. It was brutal. They called me selfish, cruel, heartless. Mom told me I'd changed, and not for the better. Emma posted vague social media rants about fake people who abandoned their family. But I also slept through the night for the first time in years. My grades were perfect. I had money in my account. I was building a life that was mine. I graduated at the top of my class with zero debt. I got a job at a prestigious hospital with a signing bonus that made my eyes water. I got my own apartment. A real apartment, not a shared room or a basement sublet. I bought furniture. I adopted a cat. I lived. And when I met Marcus again at the same hospital fundraiser 3 years into this new timeline, I was a completely different person. I was confident, successful, unburdened. He was even more attractive than I remembered, tall, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples, and warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. We talked for hours. He asked me to dinner. I said yes. Dating him this time was a revelation. Without the constant drain of my family, without the exhaustion and people-pleasing, I could actually be present. Be myself. He fell in love with the real me, the person I'd never had the energy to be in my first life. When Mom found out I was dating someone wealthy, she suddenly wanted back in my life. She called, all sweetness and light, saying she'd been thinking about me, that she was sorry for the distance between us, that family should stick together. I knew what she wanted. I'd lived this movie before. "That's nice, Mom," I said. "But I'm busy, building my own life, you understand." "But Emma would love to meet him. You could bring him to dinner." "No, thank you." "Don't be ridiculous, he should. Meet your family." "He has," I said. "He met my real family, my friends, the people who actually care about me. You can meet him if he ever becomes my fiancé, and even then, only if you can be civil." She sputtered, threatened, played the victim. I hung up and blocked her number for a month. Marcus and I dated for 2 years. It was healthy, balanced, full of joy. His parents loved me. They could tell I wasn't after money, that I genuinely cared for their son. His sister became one of my closest friends. And when he proposed, at the same restaurant where we'd had our first date, with tears in his eyes and his hands shaking, I said yes without hesitation. But I also knew what was coming. I'd seen this play before. I knew the script. I knew that the moment my family found out about the wedding, they'd descend like locusts. They'd take over, undermine, destroy. Emma would wear white. Mom would make everything about her. They'd turn my joy into chaos. Not this time. "I have an idea," I told Marcus that night, lying in bed, his arm around me, the ring feeling strange and wonderful on my finger. "What if we eloped?" He propped himself up on one elbow. "Really?" "Think about it. Small ceremony, intimate. Just the people who really matter. Paris, maybe? Or Italy? Somewhere beautiful. No stress, no drama, no nightmare in-laws." He said with a small smile. He knew about my family. I'd been honest with him from the start about why we had little contact. "Exactly." "You're sure? Don't you want the big wedding? The white dress? The flowers? The whole thing?" I thought about my first wedding. The stress, the debt, the way every moment had been poisoned. And then I thought about saying vows in Paris, with people who loved me, with nothing but joy. "I want to marry you," I said. "Everything else is just decoration." We eloped 3 months later. It was perfect. A small chapel in the 6th arrondissement, October morning, the light golden and soft. I wore the Givenchy dress. Marcus wore a dark gray suit. His parents cried. My grandmother, who I'd built a relationship with in this timeline, who turned out to be wonderful once she wasn't filtered through my mother's bitterness, squeezed my hand and told me I was radiant. Nicole was my maid of honor. Marcus's sister read a poem. We said our vows in English and French, stumbling over the pronunciation, laughing through tears. Afterwards, we had lunch at a tiny bistro that grandmother Helena recommended. We drank champagne. We ate cheese that cost more than I used to make in a week. We toasted to love, to joy, to choosing the family you make instead of the one you're born into. I was married. Truly, beautifully married. And my mother and sister had no idea. The seed of the plan had been planted during the elopement planning. Nicole, knowing my history, had asked, "Are you going to tell your mom?" "Eventually," I said. "But not until after. I'm not giving her the chance to ruin this. She's going to be furious." "I know," I smiled. I'm counting on it." The idea grew from there. Why just avoid the drama when I could turn it into something useful? Why protect them from their own toxicity when I could let them reveal it to everyone? So, I planned a fake wedding. Not immediately. First, Marcus and I came back from Paris, quietly moved into our new apartment. He'd bought it as a surprise, a gorgeous 2-bedroom with a view of the park, and settled into married life. We told his parents and closest friends, swearing them to secrecy. We updated our legal documents, our insurance, everything official. And then 2 months after the real wedding, I called my mother. "Mom, I have some news. Marcus proposed." The squeal could have shattered glass. "Oh my God, oh honey, that's wonderful. When? How? Tell me everything." I fed her a version of the proposal that was close enough to the truth to be believable. She was over the moon. Suddenly, I was the perfect daughter again. Suddenly, all was forgiven. "We need to start planning right away," she said. "Oh, Emma will be so excited to help. She has such good taste. And we'll need a big venue. The Ashford Estate, maybe? Or the Botanical Gardens? Do you know how much Marcus's family is worth? We could really do something spectacular." I smiled into the phone. "Actually, Mom, I was thinking something more intimate. Maybe a garden party? Marcus's grandmother has a beautiful estate." I suppose that could work, as long as there's room for all our guests. You know how big our family is." Our family consisted of Mom, Emma, two cousins I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, and an aunt who once told me I'd never amount to anything. But I just said, "Of course." Over the next few months, I planned the fake wedding. I found vendors, real ones, professionals, and I paid them well, but I also created a fake paper trail. I set up a wedding email account and gave the password to Nicole. I sent my mother and Emma screenshots of my decision, the venue, the flowers, the menu, and the dress. I spent hours finding the perfect dress for this con. White lace fitted, traditional. Exactly the kind of dress that Emma would love. I sent photos to the family group chat, gushing about how perfect it was, how I couldn't wait to wear it. Emma responded with a string of heart emojis. "So gorgeous! You're going to look amazing!" I knew what she was thinking. I'd seen this before. The fake wedding date was set for April. I sent out invitations to my mother's friends, my extended family, all the people who had enabled and excused their treatment of me. I also invited Marcus's family and friends, the real ones who were in on the plan. Marcus thought I was crazy at first. "You're spending thousands of dollars on a fake wedding?" "Think of it as theater," I said. "And therapy, very expensive therapy." Grandmother Helena, when we told her, laughed so hard she had to sit down. "Oh, you brilliant girl. Your grandfather would have loved you. Yes. Absolutely yes. Use my estate. I'll play my part perfectly." In the weeks leading up to the fake wedding, Emma started acting strange. She called more often, stopped by my apartment, asked questions about Marcus, about his family, about the wedding plans. I knew what she was doing. She was probing, looking for weaknesses, planning her move. When she asked about my dress, I made sure to mention where I'd ordered it from, what the designer's name was, when it would arrive. All lies, but she didn't know that. 2 weeks before the fake wedding, Emma started dating someone new. His name was James, and he was, surprise, a junior associate at Marcus's firm. Not Connor this time. I'd made sure Connor was unavailable, engaged to someone else, but Emma found a replacement. Someone younger, more impressionable, someone she could manipulate. I watched it happen, this slightly different version of the same play. She positioned herself near Marcus's world, started showing up at events, made sure she was visible. And then, 10 days before the fake wedding, vendors started canceling. The photographer called apologetically. "I'm so sorry, but I received an email from your wedding account saying you wanted to cancel. I've already booked someone else for that date." I pretended to be shocked, devastated. I called my mother, crying fake tears. "Someone's sabotaging my wedding." "What? Who would do that?" "I don't know. The photographer, the florist, they all say they got emails from me canceling, but I never sent those emails. This is terrible. Let me ask around, see if anyone knows anything." I waited, held my breath. Sure enough, the next day, Mom called back. "Honey, I talked to Emma. She says she was trying to help. She found some better vendors, cheaper ones, and she thought she was doing you a favor by switching things around." "She canceled my vendors without asking me?" "She made a mistake. She feels terrible. You know how she is. She just wants to help." The same excuse, the same lie, the same pattern. "It's fine," I said, letting my voice sound tired and defeated. "I'll figure it out." I didn't have to figure anything out, of course. The real wedding had already happened. These vendors didn't exist. I'd created fake contracts, fake companies, just to give Emma something to cancel. She'd walked right into the trap. The day of the fake wedding arrived. Grandmother Helena's estate was transformed, flowers everywhere, white chairs arranged in perfect rows, a quartet playing softly in the background. It looked legitimate. It looked expensive. It looked like the kind of wedding that would launch 1,000 Instagram posts. I arrived early wearing the blush pink cocktail dress instead of a wedding gown. Nicole was with me, stunning in a navy dress. Marcus's sister, Kate, wore burgundy. We looked like guests, not a bridal party. Marcus, in a perfectly tailored suit but no tuxedo, stood beside me. You ready for this? I've been ready for 10 years, I said. The guests arrived, Mom's friends, Emma's influencer acquaintances, distant relatives. They looked around, confused by the garden party atmosphere, but too polite to say anything immediately. Marcus's family arrived, all in on the joke, playing their parts. His mother kissed my cheek. This is absolutely brilliant, dear. And then Emma arrived. She walked through the garden gate in a white lace dress nearly identical to the one I'd shown in photos. Her hair was in elaborate curls. She wore a delicate veil pinned into her hair. She looked like a bride. She looked like she wanted to be the bride. The gasps were audible. The whispers started immediately. Mom rushed over, playing her part beautifully. The surprised mother, the defender. Emma, you look stunning. I watched Emma's eyes scan the crowd looking for me. When she saw me in my pink dress, standing calmly with a champagne flute, confusion flashed across her face. Then calculation, then something that might have been panic. But she committed to the bit. She smiled, posed, pretended this was normal. That's when Grandmother Helena made her move, delivering her cutting comment about tackiness and costume parties. Emma's face went from pink to red to white. She looked around at the staring guests, the judgmental faces, and you could see her trying to figure out what had gone wrong. I don't understand, she said, her voice small. This is a wedding, isn't it? Where's your dress? I walked over to her slowly, deliberately. The crowd parted like I was Moses at the Red Sea. Emma, I said, my voice calm and clear, this isn't my wedding. I got married 3 weeks ago in Paris. This is just a party. The silence was deafening. What? Mom's voice cracked. What do you mean you got married? We've been planning. You've been planning, I corrected. I've been watching. Watching you try to take over. Try to make it about Emma. Try to turn my joy into your spectacle. So, I got married without you, and then I planned this. I gestured around at the elegant garden party. To see what you'd do. Emma's face had gone pale. I was just trying to look nice. I didn't know. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said. I pulled out my phone where I'd saved screenshots. Weeks of screenshots. You canceled my vendors. You accessed my wedding email account, which, by the way, was a fake account I set up specifically to catch you. You sabotaged me just like you did in... I caught myself. Just like you always do? I turned to the crowd, addressing them all. For those of you who don't know, my sister has a pattern. She's worn white to 2 of my cousins' weddings. She slept with my high school boyfriend. She borrowed $5,000 from me in college and never paid it back. She's stolen my credit card. She's lied about me to employers. And when I finally found happiness, found someone who loves me, she tried to destroy that too. Mom stepped forward, her face furious. How dare you air our private family business? Private, I laughed, and it was sharp enough to cut. Emma posts every detail of her life online. You've told anyone who will listen what a difficult daughter I am. But now that the truth is unflattering to you, suddenly it should be private? I looked at the assembled guests, Mom's friends, the people who had watched me be sacrificed on the altar of Emma's ego for years. You all saw what happened here today. My sister showed up to what she thought was my wedding in a white dress. Not cream, not ivory, white. With a veil. She wanted to upstage me on what was supposed to be the most important day of my life. I paused. Except I outsmarted her. I got married on my own terms, surrounded by people who actually love me. And this party? This was a test. One that she failed spectacularly. Emma was crying now, mascara running down her face. You're crazy. You set me up. I gave you every opportunity to be a decent person, I said. I told you about the wedding. I invited you. All you had to do was show up in any color other than white and be happy for me. That's it. That's the incredibly low bar, and you couldn't even clear it. Mom grabbed my arm. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've done for you. Done for me? My voice rose. You've done nothing for me. I paid for Emma's car. I paid for your surgery. I gave you thousands of dollars over the years while I worked myself half to death. And what did I get? Criticism, resentment, being told I'm selfish every time I set a boundary. I pulled my arm free. I'm done. I'm done being your emotional support system. I'm done being Emma's bank. I'm done being the family scapegoat. Grandmother Helena stepped forward, her presence commanding immediate attention. I think it's time for certain guests to leave, she said, her voice arctic. This is a celebration for my grandson and his wife. Yes, his legal wife. Married 3 weeks ago in a lovely ceremony that some of us were privileged to attend. Those who cannot celebrate their happiness should see themselves out. Marcus's father, a man whose name appeared on buildings downtown, added his voice. I'll be happy to have security escort anyone who causes further disruption. Mom's face had gone from red to purple. You'll regret this, both of you. When you need family, I have family, I said, gesturing to Marcus, his parents, grandmother Helena, Nicole. Real family, the kind you choose, the kind that loves you unconditionally, not transactionally. Emma was sobbing openly now, her Instagram-perfect makeup destroyed. Several guests had their phones out, recording. I felt a moment of savage satisfaction. She'd built her brand on image, and now that image was ruined. Mom grabbed Emma's arm. Come on, we're leaving. They'll come crawling back. They always do. No, I said quietly. We really won't. They left, Emma stumbling in her white dress, Mom's voice carrying back through the garden with threats and curses. Several of Mom's friends followed them out, uncomfortable with the scene, but most people stayed. And then something unexpected happened. One of my distant cousins, a woman named Jessica, whom I barely knew, approached me. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, she said quietly. Your mom, she did something similar to me at my graduation. Made the whole day about Emma's college applications. I've been too scared to say anything because, family. Another voice chimed in. Emma borrowed money from me too, said it was an emergency, never paid it back. One of Mom's book club friends. I always thought she was too hard on you, but she's so forceful, and Emma is so charming. The stories came out, years of them. Little cruelties, manipulations, the way Mom and Emma had steamrolled over anyone in their path. And I realized something. I wasn't the only victim. I was just the first one to fight back publicly. Marcus wrapped his arm around my waist. You okay? Better than okay, I said. And I meant it. I felt light, untethered, free. Grandmother Helena clinked her glass. But, hi. Well, now that we've dispensed with the unpleasantness, shall we actually celebrate? I believe there's champagne, an excellent caterer, and a chocolate fountain that cost more than most people's cars. The party shifted. What had started as a trap, a confrontation, became a real celebration. People congratulated us. They asked about Paris, about the real wedding. They laughed and danced and genuinely seemed happy for us. Nicole pulled me aside. You know this is going to go viral, right? Half those people were recording. Good, I said. Let it. The truth is a lot more interesting than Emma's curated feed. And it did go viral. By the next morning, videos of the confrontation had spread across social media. The comments were overwhelmingly on my side. People shared their own stories of narcissistic family members, of golden children and scapegoats, of the relief of finally cutting toxic people out of their lives. Emma's influencer brand took a massive hit. Sponsors started dropping her. Her comment section filled with people calling her out. She tried to control the narrative, posting a tearful video about being ambushed and betrayed, but the evidence was against her. Too many people had seen her pattern of behavior. Too many had their own stories. Mom tried to spread rumors, calling me mentally ill, claiming I'd always been difficult and manipulative. But grandmother Helena, with her old money connections and unimpeachable reputation, made a few phone calls. Suddenly, doors that had been open to Mom and Emma were firmly closed. The social ostracization was swift and thorough. 3 months after the fake wedding, I got a call from Emma. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to it, with Marcus beside me, his hand in mine. "Please," Emma's voice, small and broken. "Please talk to me. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I never thought. Everything's falling apart. My sponsors, my followers, even my friends. Mom won't stop calling and screaming at me, blaming me for everything. Please, I know I was terrible. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please." Marcus looked at me. "What do you want to do?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. In my first life, I would have caved, would have rushed to fix things, to smooth it over, to sacrifice myself on the altar of family peace. But I wasn't that person anymore. "Nothing," I said. "I want to do nothing. Her consequences are not my responsibility." "You're sure?" She had my entire life to treat me with basic human decency. She chose differently every single time. Now she gets to live with that choice. I deleted the voicemail. Mom tried too, of course. Letters, emails, showing up at my workplace. Grandmother Helena's security team started escorting her off the property whenever she appeared at the estate. Eventually, she got the message. Or rather, she got a legal message. Marcus's family attorney sent a cease and desist letter, warning both Mom and Emma about harassment. They had one last choice: leave us alone or face legal consequences. They chose to leave us alone. 2 years later, Marcus and I hosted a garden party at Grandmother Helena's estate. Our anniversary party, celebrating the real wedding, the Paris chapel, the beginning of our actual marriage. This time, every guest was someone we loved, someone who had supported us, someone who brought joy to our lives. Nicole was there with her new girlfriend. Grandmother Helena held court on the patio, telling slightly scandalous stories about her youth. Marcus's sister was pregnant, glowing, her hand constantly resting on her belly. Our friends laughed and danced and toasted to love. I wore a sundress the color of champagne. Marcus wore linen. We danced under string lights as the sun set, and I felt so full of contentment I could barely breathe. "Happy?" Marcus asked, his hand warm on the small of my back. "Deliriously, I said. And I was. I had a career I loved. I'd been promoted to head nurse, then to assistant director. I had a marriage built on actual partnership, respect, and love. I had friends who knew me, really knew me, and loved me anyway. I had a grandmother-in-law who treated me like the granddaughter she'd always wanted. I had a life. A real one. Mine. I thought about my first life sometimes. The exhaustion, the debt, the constant feeling of drowning. The way I'd given and given and given until there was nothing left. I thought about how different things were now, how I'd chosen myself over and over, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Someone had posted an update about Emma online recently. Nicole had showed it to me, hesitant, unsure if I wanted to know. Emma was working retail. She'd lost the influencer income, the sponsorships, the free products, and paid trips. She was living with Mom in a small apartment, the two of them toxic and miserable together. Mom had apparently started calling Emma ungrateful, lazy, not trying hard enough, turning on her the way she'd always turned on me. I felt a complicated mix of emotions looking at that update. Not quite sympathy. They'd made their choices, built their dynamic on using and discarding others. But not quite satisfaction either. Just distance. They were characters in a story I used to be part of, and now I was reading about them from very far away. "You okay?" Marcus had asked. "Yeah," I said. "I was just thinking. They have exactly the relationship they deserve, each other." He'd laughed, dark and a little surprised. Then he'd kissed my temple. "That's my girl." Now at our anniversary party, I looked around at the people I'd chosen, the family I'd built, the life I'd created by simply deciding I was worth more than the scraps they'd offered me. Grandmother Helena caught my eye from across the garden and raised her glass. I raised mine back. "To second chances," she called out, and everyone cheered. "To second chances," I echoed, but quietly, just for me, because I was the only one who knew just how literal that was. I'd died once, used up and burnt out, believing I was worth nothing more than what I could give. I'd been given an impossible gift, a second chance, a do-over, a rebirth with knowledge. And I'd used it not for revenge exactly. The fake wedding was theater, yes. Catharsis, absolutely. But the real victory was simpler and more profound. I'd used my second chance to choose myself, to build boundaries, to demand respect, to create a life where I was valued not for what I could provide, but for who I was. Emma wearing white to a wedding that didn't exist was just the cherry on top. The real revenge was being happy. Marcus pulled me closer as the song changed to something slow. "What are you thinking about?" "Weddings," I said with a smile. "And how glad I am we had two." "The real one in Paris?" "And the fake one here." "Best money I ever spent." He laughed, the sound warm and rich. "You're terrifying, you know that?" "I prefer the term strategic." "Strategic. Terrifying. My brilliant, slightly vengeful wife." "Slightly?" "Okay, moderately vengeful wife." I rested my head on his shoulder. "I prefer to think of it as justice." "Justice," he agreed. "Justice and happiness. You deserve both." And standing there, surrounded by love, music drifting through the warm evening air, I finally, fully believed it. I deserved happiness, deserved peace, deserved to be loved without condition or transaction. It had taken dying and being reborn to learn that lesson. But now that I knew it, understood it in my bones, nothing could take it from me. Not my mother's guilt trips, not my sister's tears, not society's expectations about family. I was free. And if Emma had shown up to this party, this real celebration with real guests who really loved us, in a white dress, I would have laughed, would have taken a photo, would have posted it myself with the caption, "Some people never learn." But she wasn't there. Neither of them were. They were living their small, bitter lives, trapped in a cycle of their own making. And I was here, dancing with my husband, planning for the future, talking about maybe having kids someday, about traveling, about all the dreams that were possible now that I wasn't constantly sacrificing myself for people who didn't appreciate it. The party wound down as the night grew late. Guests departed with hugs and promises to see us soon. Marcus's parents left last, his mother kissing both of our cheeks. "Your grandfather would have loved her," she told Helena, nodding at me. "Absolutely loved her." "He would have," Helena agreed. "She has spine. And more importantly, she knows when to use it." Finally, it was just Marcus and me, helping the caterers pack up, walking through the garden, picking up stray glasses and napkins. "Leave it," Marcus said, catching my hand. "They'll handle it in the morning. Come here." He pulled me to the gazebo where we'd stood during the fake wedding, where I'd confronted Emma. The string lights were still on, casting everything in soft gold. 2 years, he said. Best 2 years of my life. Even with the psychodrama family confrontation? Especially with that. You know what that day showed me? That you're someone who fights for herself, who sets boundaries, who doesn't accept crumbs when she deserves the whole feast. He cupped my face in his hands. "I'm so proud to be your husband." My eyes stung with tears, the good kind. "I love you." "I love you too. And I'm really, really glad you chose Paris instead of the nightmare wedding your mom would have planned." I laughed, wiping at my eyes. "Me too, though I do sometimes wonder what she had envisioned." "Nothing as perfect as what we actually had," he said. "Nothing close." We stood there for a long moment, just holding each other. In the distance, I could hear the city sounds, soft and muted. Closer, the garden rustled with night wind. Everything smelled like roses and champagne and possibility. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it, then showed Marcus, a message from one of my cousins, Jessica. Thank you for showing me it's possible to break free. I just blocked my toxic sister. First step. Terrifying but right. Marcus smiled. You started something. I just told the truth. Everyone else did the hard work themselves. You made it possible. You gave them permission. Maybe he was right. Maybe that was the real revenge, the ultimate victory, not just freeing myself, but showing others that freedom was possible. That family didn't mean accepting abuse. That love shouldn't cost you your soul. I thought about my first life, about the lonely death in the rain, and I sent a silent thank you to whatever cosmic force had given me another chance. I hadn't wasted it. I'd built something beautiful instead. Come on, Marcus said, taking my hand. Let's go home. Home. Our apartment. Our life. Our future. I followed him through the garden, turning off lights as we went, leaving the estate peaceful and dark. And if Emma was somewhere out there, bitter and broken, posting desperate content trying to rebuild a brand she'd destroyed with her own cruelty, that was her story. This life, this love, this hard-won happiness, this was mine. And I was never giving it back.